Good evening, everyone. It's Christopher Hale here in Rutherford County in our new election headquarters here in downtown Murfreesboro. You'll actually get an invitation to join us here at our headquarters on South Church Street, right next to the square here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in the coming days. I'm honored to be here tonight with a candidate for State House here in the northern part of Rutherford County, Brandon Thomas. Brandon is a champion of working families, working women and men, and he's going to be our next state representative in the Smyrna and Laverne area. Brandon has spent his entire life standing up for working Tennessee families. He grew up in this community and went to Middle Tennessee State University. He's a father, a spouse, and he's going to be a champion for us in the state house. And I know he's going to be the future state representative. And I'm excited to have him on tonight. I support his candidacy, and I also support him as a man. I know Brandon personally over the past couple of years. He's passionate, he's a fighter, but he's thoughtful, he's kind, he's caring, and I know that he's going to bring those values to Nashville. I want to give you a very quick update of my campaign. We are building a movement all across the state of Tennessee to defeat Scott DeJarlais, to win a historic election, and to bring generational change to Tennessee and America. You can see that our campaign is truly scaling up, but we need you to be involved in it. So I'm asking for your support tonight. If you can give, please do. Go to ChristopherHale.com and donate today. $5 a month goes a long way. It doesn't feed me. It feeds this organization. It feeds this movement. It helps us win this election so that we can fight like hell for Tennessee families across this community. And if you are with me, if you're a voter and you support me, you can text hell yes to 31996. That's 31996. We promise we won't spam you. We want to make sure that you get your God-given, your constitutional right to vote. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? There's some breaking news on that front. But without further ado, I want to bring Brandon into the conversation. And Brandon, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Brandon, thank
How
you
are you
so much for
doing?
joining us. I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well.
Good. Good to hear. Brandon, can you introduce our audience tonight to a little bit about you, your background, your history, and why you're running for this office?
Yeah, so I actually ran for this spot, and it's something that I'm all about doing it again, quite honestly. But it was, having seeing Ezra, and seeing how he was taken in the world, and seeing how in 4 years since I last ran, nothing had really changed in terms of healthcare, in terms of criminal justice, and in terms of workers' rights. It just upset me that we were setting up a future for him that was going to be worse than when I was brought into the world. So that's the reason why I'm running again. I'm fighting like hell, if you will, for my son. And we're going to be fighting to create a family-friendly economy here in the state of Tennessee that works for everyone, no exceptions. We're going to be fighting to expand Medicaid here in the state of Tennessee. We're going to be fighting to create a workers' bill of rights here in the state of Tennessee. We're going to be fighting to reform our criminal justice system. And one aspect of that is ending cash bail here in the state of Tennessee. And we're going to be funding our schools. We are not going to be taking public money to fund private institutions as well. So that's why I'm running. If you like that message, please go to votebrandonthomas.com because, like Chris said, $5 helps his campaign as a congressional campaign. Just think how much more that can do for a state house campaign.
Well, and Brandon, I want to talk to you too about those two the issues you kind of brought up. The courts have been friendly to us today, to the folks that we care about. Your opponent, Mike Sparks, has spent his time in Nashville.
They're breaking up a little bit there.
For the rich guys who are are well off and who do not need a helping hand. But you spent your life. Two things ruled just recently to county, or sorry, the vouchers have been, there's been a stay on vouchers and they're not coming to Tennessee. Why is it so important, particularly on that second issue? Why are vouchers such a harm to families here in Rutherford County?
Well, I mean, we don't here in Rutherford County, we don't have any failing schools. So that's just the simplest thing. We don't have any failing schools in Rutherford County. Vouchers make absolutely no sense. From the Murfreesboro City School Board to the Rutherford County City School Board, they don't want vouchers. It is taking public money to fund private institutions. It takes resources away from kids who public school, from kids and families where public school is their only viable option. And there's nothing wrong with public schools. I grew up through a public institution, went to MTSU for my college career. It doesn't make any sense other than people are probably, getting kickbacks to push this thing. And I'm glad that the court stepped in to basically say it was unconstitutional.
Well, and what's remarkable about that, you talk about kickbacks. What was remarkable about this bill is it's passed through. They pushed it through over the opposition of many Republicans, particularly rural Republicans. But it seems like the bill was so problematic because it paid for limousines to kids to go. You could pay for the transportation for kids to go. You put a card, they could put them to Uber to Montgomery Bell Academy, MBA Academy. While it took away needed money from Smyrna High School, Laverne High School, Laverne Middle, the schools that you represent. I think what's also interesting is we just see the Republican Party in Nashville. Mike Sparks, it seems that his number one agenda is to repeal the 20th century. He wants to repeal health care. He wants to repeal civil rights and labor rights. But one of the things that's remarkable is that second bill today, the second piece of news was a judge ruled, at least as it stands currently, is still going through the court system, that the state of Tennessee was wrong, that Mike Sparks was wrong, that his party was wrong, and that every Tennessean, regardless of age, can request an absentee ballot for those August 6th and November 3rd elections. Why is that so important? Why is it so important in the context of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, because we have people who legitimately are afraid or who have health conditions in which that catching COVID could mean their life. I think it's a little absurd as you and I as candidates, we can request absentee ballots. I actually requested mine. I'm waiting on mine to get back. We actually have a commission seat that has opened up, and I haven't received mine for that reason. But people have who've requested. I've already received their absentee ballots in Rutherford County. It's simple. It makes sense, especially, and we should have absentee balloting for everybody, period, going forward. But it makes so much sense now because of what's going on with COVID. I don't understand why the other side does not want absentee balloting, other than they have their own agenda. It doesn't, the studies have shown absentee balloting doesn't favor one party over the other. So I don't understand, other than an agenda. They don't want everybody to vote. Maybe if everybody has the ability to vote and it's convenient for everybody, maybe we'll have a more equal state in terms of political representation. Maybe that's what they're afraid of.
Well, it's remarkable. The leader of the Republican Party accused Representative London Lamar, a young African-American black legislator from Memphis, of quote unquote trying to, and I quote him, of trying to steal an election. And it seems to me what's so remarkable about that is this is the Republican Party that last year attempted to criminalize voting registration drives from a black voter group in Nashville. Mm-hmm. But also they said if a black church in Laverne wanted to register voters and there was too many of them were ineligible, or they didn't dot their I's and dot their T's, cross their T's, they would fine them. The Republican Party seems to be obsessed with ensuring that Tennesseans do not vote. because I think they're afraid. I think they know that everyone in our district, in your district, if they voted, you would win. You would win. If everyone who can vote
Yeah,
does vote, I
yeah.
am absolutely confident that Brandon Thomas is going to be the next state representative in Tennessee. Does the data back that up? Do you think you're going to win this election? It looks like you are to me if we fight like hell to make it happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we have a real shot, and I think Chris Mayer, because he showed that this district is winnable. He got 47.5% of the vote in 2018, and so we're going to take it. We're going to bring it home for everybody. We're going to have some substantial change. Been having good conversations with voters out here in the district, and just things that they're fed up with like healthcare. I spoke with one person who said their infant since February does not have healthcare. So we have had an infant in the state of Tennessee without healthcare since February during a national pandemic. That's unacceptable. And we're going to change that when we win in November.
Well, it's remarkable. Bill Lee's government, Governor Lee's government, the state legislature, Mike Sparks, is currently suing the federal government in the courts right now to take away health care from even more citizens. It's remarkable to me that Mike Sparks' number one agenda, it seems like, on healthcare is to take it away from our community,
Yeah.
from people in your community. Let's talk a little bit. A question that I got in social media that's interesting is you are on the northern part of Rutherford County, which is, you are no doubt a suburb of Nashville. One of the questions that has been posed is about affordable housing, and asked directly is, do you think that we are growing too fast in Rutherford County, and how can we achieve smart growth in this community?
Well, oh wait, yeah. I mean, we are. I can't tell you if we're going too fast. I can tell you from when I graduated college, which was 2012, to now, there has been a lot of growth, exponential amount of growth. I think that moving forward, I think just personally, we need to really evaluate spurious growth, right? We need to focus on transportation here in the county. Yeah, growth is like just kind of sporadic, it feels like. And of course that increases rent for folks, that increases everything, cost of living, just period. I can't say if we're growing too fast, but I know that the cost of living is, people's cost of living, being able to like pay for rent, pay for things that they need, aren't keeping up. When rent is more than half of your budget monthly, that's a problem. And so it's going to take state legislators to do something about it, and I'm willing to fight to do that. It's going to take our county commission to do something about it as well. So it's going to take citizens to complain about it and say, hey, wait, no, this is not right. So we have the political power and will to change these things.
Well, and one of the issues that I think that has been particularly highlighted since the murder, it was a murder, let's be clear, of George Floyd in Minneapolis, is we had the protest in Nashville, but also we had protests here in Rutherford County. I want to talk to you a little bit about achieving racial justice in Tennessee, but I want to talk about it. I released a 4-part plan on Tuesday or Monday this past week. But I'm going to go further on this next issue of police reform and ensuring quality community relations between people of color in our community and the police department. We know that racial profiling exists. We know that Black interactions with cops are much more likely to lead to arrests, indictments, and convictions in ways that are unjust and structurally unfair. What ideas do you have, and what can you do to help improve this issue in Nashville for our community?
We have seen is whether it was in the time of the guillotine or in the time of tear gas, that the state itself has monopolized violence. And so we have to radically think how we can disconnect that. So, and we have to think, how our state is profiting off of folks. So that's why, one of my pillars is to end cash bail here in the state of Tennessee. We should not be profiting off of poor people just because they get arrested. So that's one of my things that I'm really passionate about. We need to reevaluate how we do policing in the state of Tennessee, how force is used. So in Murfreesboro, I think it was a perfect example that there's the folks that are in power, they're disputing, oh, there was a brick thrown somewhere, okay. But there were people peacefully protesting, they were blocking an intersection, okay. um, will tell them to move. The police, if you saw the video, Chris, said, we're gonna tear gas you if you don't move, and he was throwing the tear gas while he was saying it. We got to reevaluate how all that works. That should not be the the first choice is to tear gas. That is going from 1 to 10 in an instant and not giving people the informed information that they need to move out of the intersection. So we need to just radically change everything, reevaluate how we're doing policing. We need to reevaluate how we're profiting off of poor people when it comes to criminal justice issues.
Well, and I want to highlight two things on that. On the Murfreesboro situation, it does affect your entire community, Rutherford County. I think the details of that are just so absurd. At 6:32 p.m., I was at the initial part, the protest in the square. I was not part of the after action, but at 6:32 p.m., our mayor, a supposedly conservative man, says that we're going to have a retroactive curfew at 6:30 p.m., which is unimaginable. It's illegal.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
unconstitutional.
Uh-huh.
He 2 minutes later releases tear gas on a bunch of kids
Yeah.
blocking the street, and then the city arrests them for breaking the curfew that no one knew about. I was breaking the curfew. I was at Sonic. They probably should have arrested me.
Yeah.
I was at Sonic. I was breaking the
Yeah.
curfew. But it seems to me what's remarkable about that is they bring in the National Guard. Our city, the Rutherford County, spent $250,000 on taxpayer money to bring in the National Guard because there's a few kids sitting in the road, and it's remarkable to me. The kids in the road were majority black. I just think it was an incredible overreaction. I think there's probably racial bias, but it shows to me a structural issue. Our governor and mayor wanted to play toy soldier for a minute, and we paid for it. I want to go on cash bail. Talk a little bit about why that's so important. I don't know if folks understand the structure of cash bail and what some movements across the country to get rid of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that's so remarkable, I think, about Brandon's race in particular is that Brandon is running against a Republican who is significantly vulnerable. Mike Sparks has time and again failed the people of Smyrna and Laverne. This is a man who does not take decisive action. He does not show up for his community, for our constituents, and he is extremely vulnerable. Brandon talked about Chris Mayer before. And Chris Mayer ran an incredible race in 2018. Chris will be the first one to tell you he did not have a lot of resources. We need to give Brandon the resources it takes to win this election. I'm a proud donor to Brandon Thomas, and I hope that you will be as well. We need to get him in this election. I think we actually have Brandon back here. So, Brandon, can we talk a little bit?
Sorry, yeah, it just froze up on me. So.
That's okay. Let's go back and talk a little bit about on cash bonds, why it's so important to get rid of cash bail.
Yeah, so I mean, it is something that just affects poor people, period. So, say I think these protests are a good example. We've seen where police, where it's very suspicious why police are arresting certain people. You see videos where people are literally just walking, trying to get home, and then the cops stop them and arrest them. So, imagine you get no fault of your own, get put in a situation where you're arrested. Okay, so now you're having to, sit in jail, wait for a judge to determine whether or not you should be in jail. Um, and if you're poor, more likely than not, you're not going to be able to bail yourself out. You're not going to be able to go to a bail bondsman to bail yourself out, and so you're going to be sitting in jail. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your home. These things happen, and so it's something that only affects poor people. Because if you're rich, you can get out. You can, get out on bail and wait till your court date. If you're poor, you're more likely going to have to stay in jail until your court date, and that's just wrong. And it's not right. Here in Rutherford County, we actually have a pretrial release program, so it's working for us here in Rutherford County. We need to make it a statewide thing.
Another issue that I want to kind of go on the criminal justice, and then we'll end with something else, is civil asset forfeiture. We actually had a question about that. I don't know if folks know what civil asset forfeiture is, but if you are indicted with a crime and you're using something you own during the partition, right, or it's somehow part of it in some capacity. So if I'm driving my car and I get arrested and indicted on some kind of crime, they can take my car, they can take my cash, and they can take weapons that I might have, etc. But it's a way that the state and local municipalities, I think it seems like legalized theft to me. It's taking stuff people own, and even without being convicted. So do you have any thoughts on civil asset forfeiture in particular, and ways we can reform that here in Tennessee?
Yeah, well, it's something that affects poor people. Like, well, let's be honest, because if you're rich, you can hire a lawyer, you can do what you need to do to keep your assets. If you're poor, you're probably can't hire a lawyer as quickly. You're arrested, you're stuck in jail. Yeah, we that's something I'm definitely willing to look into, because that is something that's going to affect poor people, poor working class people. Yeah, I believe if we say we have a justice system where there's something called due process, then we need to make sure that due process happens throughout, what from arrest to court date. Okay, and so that would mean getting rid of this forced forfeiture. So I'm definitely willing to look into that issue, and I would like to hear more about it.
Well, Brandon, we want to end here. It is Pride Month. Obviously, the context of Pride takes on a different capacity with all that's gone on in this country in the past. Really, God, it's been a rough couple of months, but particularly these past few weeks, in the past week or two. Can you speak particularly to LGBT Tennesseans and what you plan on doing to fight for LGBT Tennesseans in Nashville? Especially in the context, we have a state that seems obsessed with punishing gay, lesbian, transgender, and queer people across the state. What can you do to protect their rights, their dignity in this government?
Yeah, well, I think, we need to stop, in the short term when I get elected, we need to stop these bad bills from passing. So this past week, the state house passed a bill that attacked trans athletes. In the past, they've proposed bathroom bills. And this is really close to my heart because my husband is transgender. And, it doesn't make any sense to be, especially during a pandemic, to be attacking people who are a minority group and who aren't harming folks. I would tell young LGBT people to, fight for justice. You have to fight. You have to lobby. You have to let them know you are here. There was a story I heard once, and allies too. And there was a story. I was at some conference, and a person was talking about how her privilege as a white woman helped her, I guess, helped her legislator listen to what she was saying. And she was speaking on LGBT issues. She's not gay. She's a straight white woman. And the legislator was like interested because she came from all the way where she lived to speak on this particular issue. And so we also need allies to, continue to stand up and fight for LGBT rights. We have to start passing good legislation as well. So we need, in the state of Tennessee, you can be fired because of your sexual orientation or perceived gender identity, right? So you can be fired for those things. We got marriage rights. Okay, cool, but you can still be fired from your place of work. And so, and I believe that is going to be the big fight. This past year also, our state and our governor signed the adoption bill, which makes it harder for LGBT people to adopt kids. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there are so many things that our state needs to tackle, and this current government has an eye for attacking the most vulnerable people.
Well, that last one in particular is so remarkable because what it is a situation where people need adoption. We have kids who are looking to be adopted in this community, and they're not getting homes. Brandon, I really appreciate you joining us. I want folks to know that Brandon has my absolute support. He has my dollars. He'll get more of my dollars, but he needs your support too. And so I'm asking anyone on this call to, on this phone, on this live stream tonight, to give to Brandon, support his campaign. He is in the most winnable district, I think, in the state of Tennessee that's controlled by a Republican. So a little bit goes a long way. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Like, before we go, I just wanted to say our goal this month is $5,000 for Pride. So show your pride and donate what you can for this month. We're well on our way. You can go to votebrandonthomas.com to donate. This is one of the most flippable seats in Rutherford County, and this has big implications across the state. If you are concerned about state interference when it comes to workers' rights, when it comes to an increased living wage, the state stops a lot of local governments from doing that. So flipping this seat is going to move us in the right direction. So that's what I just want to end with.
Well, Brandon, we really appreciate you being with us, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, that was Brandon Thomas, and we're honored to have him. My campaign, too, needs your support during these times. We are relying completely on the generosity of folks like you. So if you are with me tonight, please go and support my campaign by going to ChristopherHale.com. That's ChristopherHale.com, where you can donate right now. You can also, if you are with us in this campaign and I have your vote, you can show your support by pledging to vote by texting Hell Yes to 31996. That's Hell Yes to 31996. We are going to win this election. We're going to fight like hell for every Tennessee family. And to those who are struggling tonight, whether from this deadly virus, the inability to find work, a checkered past, or a dim future, I want you to know something. I'm going to walk with you the entire way. Help is on the way. I'll see you soon. God bless.